Welcome back, everybody. Moving on to another question. We have to determine the values of a and b so that the function f of x is continuous. So we got a piecewise function, three pieces to it. So ax plus b when x is less than -2, x squared plus 2ax minus b when x is between -2 and -1, and 4 when x is greater than -1, greater than or equal to -1. So when I get a question like this, I always first like to write out what are my meeting points. So notice how one of the meeting points is x is -2. And then the other meeting point is when x is, let's write it here, when x is -1. So at this meeting point, -2, this piece and this piece, the y values have to equal at that x value of -2 in order for the function to be continuous. Because if the y values aren't equal at that meeting point of -2, then there's going to be like a break in the function. So at that x value of -2, the y values have to be the same for both pieces in order for the function to be continuous. So that means that we can make this and this equal when x is -2. So we could just plug in -2 for x in this piece, so a times -2 plus b, and that has to equal -2 squared plus 2a times -2 plus, or minus b rather. Right, and then we can just make an equation for this. So we got -2a plus b equals -2 squared is 4 minus 4a minus b. And then we can just bring the -4a over, bring the -b over. So -2a plus 4a gives us 2a, b plus b gives us 2b, and then we are left with 4 on the right side. And then we could simplify this further because everything is divisible by 2. So a plus b equals 2. That is one of our equations. So we got that with the meeting point x equals -2. What about this meeting point of x equals -1? Well, at an x value -1, these two functions have to equal. The y values have to equal. So 4 has to equal this function at an x value -1. Notice that there's no x values to plug in this. This is just a horizontal line when x is greater than or equal to -1. So we just leave it as 4, but that has to equal -1 squared plus 2a times -1 minus b. And now we can make another equation here. So we got 4 equals -1 squared is 1 minus 2a minus b. And then to make this look nicer, let's bring the -2a, -b over. So we'll have 2a plus b equals 1 minus 4, which is -3. And this is our second equation. So now we got two equations, two unknowns. So we could do substitution or elimination. Let's actually do elimination with this one. So I'm going to write out both equations up here. So I got 2a plus b equals -3. And then I'll write out this one just under it. A plus b equals 2. Notice that we can subtract this equation from this one to get rid of the b's. So if we subtract 2a minus a gives us just 1a, or a. b minus b, that goes to 0. And then -3 minus 2 gives us -5. So our a value is -5. Then we can plug in -5 to one of these two equations and solve for b. So this one's probably easier. A plus b equals 2. -5 plus b equals 2, which means b is equal to 7. And those are your final answers. So a equals -5, b equals 7. As long as a and b are those values, then this piecewise function is going to be continuous. So whenever you get a question like this, always write out your meeting points and then make the functions equal at those respective meeting points. So these two functions have to equal at an x value of -2, So you just plug in -2 for all the x's, make the two expressions equal. And then the other meeting point, x equals -1, we made this expression. So we plugged in -1 for that expression, we made it equal to 4. So then we simplified both expressions. We have two equations, two unknowns, substitution or elimination. Then you solve for the constant.